Today on 9 to 5 Tactical, we will be talking about the new OSIGHT SE. So quick TLDR, if you have the attention span of a toddler or have ADHD like me, the OSIGHT SE is almost the same as the OSIGHT S, but instead now it has a side-loading battery that you can replace instead of the non-replaceable charging battery that was in the OSIGHT S. There are a few differences to mention, but stick around if you guys want to learn about that. Just a disclaimer, before we get further into the video, to let everybody know, OSIGHT did send this out to us for review and to test out. As for the specs of the OSIGHT SE, it is an enclosed emitter, has a spherical lens, side-load battery using CR1620 batteries, features an RMSC footprint, has a battery life warning. The OSIGHT SE will let you know if your dot is close to needing the battery to be replaced by blinking 3 times every minute, has an IPX7 waterproof rating, which means about 1 meter deep, a 2 MOA dot and 32 MOA circle, has 3 dot settings, a dot, circle only, and circle and dot, 10 brightness levels, 8 daylight and 2 night vision. The dot dimensions are 0.83 inches wide and 0.55 inches tall. As for the dot colors, it only comes in red as of the making of this video, and the MSRP is about 199 Robux. So like I mentioned in the TLDR, that the OSIGHT SE is pretty similar to the OSIGHT S, so what was the point of OSIGHT making this dot? Well, it's pretty much the same in terms of like dimensions and build quality as the OSIGHT S. However, the biggest ask that everybody was wanting was a battery that could be replaced. So OSIGHT was listening and they decided to give us the OSIGHT SE that features a side-loading tray for batteries to be replaced, and the best part of having it being side-load is that you don't actually have to take off your dot and re-zero it every time. I can see why people ask for this. It's quite obvious that like batteries over time will disintegrate, and if you have a battery that can't be replaced, then you have to get a new optic or send your dot out to get fixed by OSIGHT, and that kind of sucks. So having a replaceable battery kind of makes more sense in terms of things, because it's not if it fails, it's when it fails when it comes to batteries. So the next question is, what is actually different? I did mention that the OSIGHT SE is almost the same as the OSIGHT S. There are a few little details that are different that might not matter the most, but some of you guys might like to know anyways, and maybe this might change your mind on whether you get this one or the OSIGHT S. So the first difference, obviously, is the battery is now a side-loading battery that can be replaced, and it's not a rechargeable one like the OSIGHT S. So with that difference, the battery life is actually different. The battery life on the OSIGHT SE is now 75,000 hours instead of 87,600 on the OSIGHT S. The next difference is honestly one I probably don't really care about because none of my dots have it, and I'm glad it doesn't have it, but the OSIGHT SE does not have the auto dimming sensor like it does in the OSIGHT S. The next one is the motion sensor. It has a 3-minute shut off on the SE instead of a 10-minute shut off on the S. So as I was reading through the specs of this on their website, it said the OSIGHT SE features a 7075 aluminum instead of the OAL-TM, and the OAL is some like trademarked 7075 aluminum version that OSIGHT has crafted on their own. They said that it's still 7075 aluminum, but it's stronger than standard 7075 aluminum. Same, but different. In terms of like having our dots fail on us, they haven't, so take that with a grain of salt, which you will. It's still 7075 aluminum. And the next obvious difference is the price. Like I mentioned earlier in the specs, that this is now $200 opposed to the $250 for the OSIGHT S. Now let's talk about our experience with the OSIGHT SE, and before we do that, let's go on a little history trip talking about the OSIGHT S. So a few months ago, we did have the OSIGHT S sent out to us, which we actually do have a review on that already. If you are curious about that, have extra free time, which everybody has free time, it just depends what you do through time, and a good thing to do through time is watch that previous video of ours. Anyways, what we found on the OSIGHT S was actually that we were quite surprised about the quality that was given to us given the price point. So for around $250, the glass was pretty clear, the emitter was pretty solid, and the durability held up the test of time. So we actually had it mounted on, I believe, our T-sauce, which we actually have it right here. So this is the one with the rechargeable one, and as you can see, it looks pretty much identical to the OSIGHT SE. I'll even show you again what that looks like right here. So it's pretty easy to get confused. I mean, obviously the way you can tell is that if you try to put the rechargeable pack on it, it's not going to connect. With the OSIGHT S, we had zero issues with that, and the glass clarity was pretty good, and we are pretty psyched that it actually carried over to the OSIGHT S. So with the OSIGHT S, the biggest thing we noticed was the emitter and glass clarity was pretty good. Most things we find on cheaper optics is that the emitter quality is usually pretty trash, like the red dot has some like fuzziness around it, and the glass clarity tends to have a good amount of parallax, or it gets washed out from the sun, so whatever UV protection that it has to prevent the dot from being washed out kind of sucks, or anti-reflection material. We are pretty happy with about 400 or 500 rounds so far through the 43X, and I think it's pretty important to mention that it has held zero, especially on the 43X. This is a compact or subcompact, if you call it that, via the width. I think T-Rex Arms calls this a subcompact, even though it's probably not. It's more like a compact size. Anyways, the gun itself is pretty snappy. The slide cycle rate's pretty fast given the size, so the fact that this has held the abusiveness of the 43X's recoil is pretty good. If we threw this on like something like the Staccato XC we have on the channel, where the slide travel is pretty graceful and it doesn't really have that much recoil and it held zero, that's not really saying much, because honestly that gun is pretty soft shooting and the dot isn't really going to feel as much kinetic energy trying to murder it off the optic plate. So far, 500 rounds, it's held up, and in terms of shooting, when we did like target transitions, long range shots, the glass clarity, we did not notice any parallax, and if there was some parallax, I'm sure there probably is a little bit, but not enough for us to deter our vision on the targets at all. To sum it up on our experience, it has been rather positive with this, and of course, if it does fail on us in the future, we will let you guys know on Instagram. If you guys don't follow us on Instagram, it's still 9to5 Tactical, so go ahead and follow us there so you guys can keep up to date on any news or latest content that we don't post on YouTube. So the next big question is, why would I recommend the OSIGHT SE to shooters? I'd actually recommend this to new shooters getting into their first carry or getting into the EDC game entirely. Why? Because unfortunately money is an object for most people, including ourselves. So when people talk about getting the first carry, they tend to look at, one, does it fit their hand the best? Two, how much does it cost? And unfortunately, not fitting in your hand the best tends to be overridden by the cost option. And when we start talking about what is kind of required to carry your first gun safely and properly, it does tend to get a little expensive. So one, obviously, is going to be the firearm itself, and usually that's going to cost you between $400 to $600, or crazy if you go from $400 to like $3,000. Some people choose 2011s or Staccatos as their first carry. Then you got the holster option. I usually see people cheap out and get cheap Amazon holsters that kind of suck. We do recommend you get quality holsters such as QVO Tacticals. We do actually have a discount code down below in the description if you want to save yourself some money and give yourself a quality holster for your carry. The next thing is ammo costs. Obviously, if you buy yourself a firearm, the first thing you're probably going to do is take it out to the range, go ahead and test it out, probably give yourself some training and practice with it. And of course, what most people usually skip out on, and it really sucks that they do, is getting a proper training course. I feel like a lot of people should be taking a proper training course to get familiar with their pistol and how basic pistol fundamentals are. And when you add that up, mostly on average, let's say you chose a budget friendly option, that's probably going to cost you between $800 to $1,000 up front. And because money is an object, people aren't going to do that. And the last thing I didn't mention is the dot option. Why? Because most people don't even get an optic on their pistol because of the upfront cost. Some do eventually later once they find out the benefits of the dot, but most people don't even shoot their guns enough to even like get the enjoyments and benefits of shooting from an optic. So from time to time we do shoot with our friends and family. They get to try out all the pistols that you see on the gun wall, and they get to try out all the optics we have, which is great because we kind of introduce them to what they're really missing out on. The most common thing we hear from when they shoot our pistols, the optics, like, wow, I did not know shooting could be this easy or it could be this fun. I can actually see what my target is and where my shots are going. Because with irons, of course, you know, not to get too scientific here, because this is not a red dot versus irons. Obviously with irons you are covering up a portion of the targets and you're usually sight focused, and you can be target focused, but we'll talk about that another day. And then with a dot you are to remain target focus, and because of the optic window, you can actually see the entire target. However, we mentioned the cost of some of our optics, like such as the MPS, which is like $500 or $600. They're like, ooh, yeah, I don't know, maybe I'll skip out on that, or maybe I'll get one in the future. So that's why I think the OSIGHT SE, being a budget-friendly option, is a great choice for an optic. I mean, it only starts around $200, and I'm sure over time there will be sales, especially where you can probably get for between $150 to $180, and it's quite clear what this is a competitor to. If you look at it, it kind of probably looks similar to a Holosun EPS carry, and the Holosun EPS carry is around $350 starting if you look at prices online. The fact that you can get similar performance, if not the same performance as the Holosun EPS carry for a whole $150 less, I think this is probably a no-brainer that most people are probably going to gravitate towards the OSIGHT SE. And last thing to kind of tie into the budget friendliness of the OSIGHT SE is that it does have some room to grow. What I mean by that, let's say story time again is that the first carry of your choice was a compact, kind of like myself. I had the Hellcat Pro, which did have an RMSC style footprint. Let's say you do want to upgrade to such things as a Walther PDP or MP 2.0, and of course the most popular option out there is an RMR footprint for most full-size pistols on the market. And OSIGHT was thinking about this. If you wanted to, you can purchase an optional RMR adapter plate for your OSIGHT SE. So instead of fitting an RMSC, it can now fit pistols with an RMR footprint. I generally wouldn't recommend running a compact optic on a full-size pistol. One is because you're kind of like selling yourself short, because now you have an RMR footprint, you could run a full-size dots. But let's say from a cost perspective you want to save some money and you're totally fine with that, and you want to keep running your OSIGHT SE, you can do that because of the RMR adapter plate that you can get additionally. So with all that OSIGHT SE glazing, we kind of have to talk about the history of OSIGHT. I think their first optic came out last year, and luckily with our experience with ours, it has been mostly trouble-free. Other people on the internet have had more issues with theirs in terms of durability and the emitter not being as great. That's the first year product, and it's the first optic they ever made, so I mean it's kind of be expected. And as we all know, in the firearms industry, the hardest thing to earn and keep is trust. OSIGHT has been listening to their customers and has been improving their product over time. I mean, the fact that they decided to bring out the side-loading battery tray is a first indication that they are actually listening to shooters who are actually shooting their pistol and wanting to properly maintain it, not having to worry about their battery not being able to be changed given their optic does fail from a non-replaceable battery. OSIGHT could be like a certain other company that makes firearms like SIG. They don't even want to take responsibility for any mistakes they had in the past. I mean, we look at the P320s on the market, they shoot so damn good that they can do it by themselves. So in conclusion, our experience, as you can tell, has been rather positive with the OSIGHT SE, and as of right now, we have really enjoyed it, and it's held up to snuff with our other optics that we have on our channel, which they are much more expensive than the OSIGHT SE, which is only $200, and the other optics we have on the channel are like $350 and like $600 and up. So to get same performance as that, we are quite happy, and we can't recommend this more than we already are, shoving this video down your throat. If there are any more questions below that we didn't talk about in this video and you guys kind of want to get some clarity on that, let us know in the comments below and we will get to those the best we can. Also, let us know in the comments below if there's any other products or optics you'd like for us to check out. And of course, if you found this video informative and you enjoyed this type of content, leave a like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you guys next week.